Have you ever looked at your life and thought, this isn't what I planned? Maybe that's disappointing. But what if it also creates room for possibilities you never would have discovered otherwise? Today, let's talk about when life doesn't go according to plan and why that might be a good thing. If you're tired of feeling stuck in life and doubting yourself and want simple steps to stop overthinking, gain clarity, and start living your dream, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Sarah Tyke, a midlife mom, chronic overthinker, and your dream activator. I learned the secret of how to overcome self doubt and stop overthinking. Take small, practical steps to create the life you dream of. If you're ready to see the possibilities, transform your mindset, and take the first step forward, grab a pen and a journal and meet me in the Dream Lab. Hi everyone, welcome to Reinventing Life After 40. I'm your host, Sarah Tyke. And before we get started today, I just want to remind you all that we do have a Facebook group that you can join. It's called Goal Setting for Overthinkers. And there's a weekly newsletter that you can sign up for. I haven't been super great about getting a weekly newsletter out, but I'm working on it. It's on my list of things to do every single week, and it's just lately has been taking a back seat, but it's there. I will be getting it out on a more regular basis. The plan for that is to have just weekly encouragement, some goal setting tips. If there's any freebies or offers or anything like that, you'll hear about it first if you are a newsletter subscriber. And for the Facebook group, you can just go to Facebook and go to the groups section, and you can search for goal setting for overthinkers. If you search for Reinventing Life After 40, it might also come up. So you can join that. It's a private group. The idea is just that we all are just a bunch of overthinkers there, just helping each other, supporting each other, talking about goals or any difficulties that we might be having that we can just kind of help each other work through. Links for both of these are posted in the show notes for each episode, and you can go to the homepage of my website, sarahtyke.com. There's a link there to join the Facebook group. For the newsletter, I think you have to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and there's a link at the very bottom at the footer, or you can go to sarahtyke.com/newsletter and sign up for that. Okay, today we are going to be talking about when life doesn't go according to plan. And since I believe we're all probably overthinkers here, we all like to plan everything. And I don't know about you guys, but I think it's more often than not that things don't go according to my plan. And a lot of times we have these younger versions of ourselves that create a very specific vision for the future. So we have exactly what we're going to do, what college we're going to go to, what we're going to major in, what our job's going to be, where we're going to work, and we have it all planned out. And then life happens and things kind of fall apart. And a lot of times that can be painful or disappointing because you kind of feel like a failure because the universe did not agree with you and did not bend to your will. But sometimes when things don't go as you want, that's also where you have some unexpected opportunities and lessons to be learned. And I don't know, like I said, if life ever really goes as planned. So when I was in high school, thinking about where I was going to go to college and what I was going to do, I was going to be a marine biologist. And actually, since I was about 10 or 11 years old, I wanted to be a marine biologist. Or very specifically, I had it narrowed down to a cetologist, which is somebody who studies cetaceans, which are whales and dolphins. That's all I wanted to do was study whales and dolphins. But I found that you can't just major in cetology. So you do marine biology and then you can specialize. But I was so sure I was going to be a marine biologist. That was my dream. And then my senior year of high school, I read a book called, it's either Dr. Aerosmith or just Aerosmith. And it was about a doctor who's kind of on the cutting edge of microbiology and trying to treat diseases with medicine rather than just sort of, like folk medicine. And so that really got me into genetics. I was just fascinated by this idea of genetics. So it's going to be one of those two. It's marine biology or genetics. Wasn't really sure, kind of a toss up. So I go to college for the registration. I register as a marine biology or maybe even been biology because I was going to University of Florida. So that's very landlocked in the state. So I don't know if they had a marine biology. So I think I may have just done microbiology. Um, and that was my last like few months of senior year. And then at the very end of senior year, um, right before we graduate, I decide I want to be an astronomer. So I'm like, that's what I got to do now because I saw a picture actually in my biology book in senior year. There's a picture of a supernova, and I was like, I have to study those. I want to see one of those. So I choose astronomy for my major. So I'm going to be an astronomer. I'm going to be an astrophysicist. I'm going to study stars. That's the new plan. So I go through undergrad, I get into grad school. I get to grad school and I find out that I do not want to be a professor or an astronomer or have anything to do with academia. It seemed like all you do is beg for money and you have to do what's mainstream research. I couldn't do it. I don't like doing what's mainstream. I don't like falling into someone else's box of what I have to do or what they consider good research. I want to be free to explore everything. And in academia, you're just not free to do whatever you want. You have to do what's popular so that you get the grant, so you get the money, so you can do the research, so you can make your university, prestigious. It wasn't for me, couldn't do it. And that's in grad school. So at this point, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm like, my plan was for physics and astronomy, and now I can't do it. I don't want to do it. So now what? So then I just have to get jobs just kind of wherever I can. I was working for the USGS for a little bit, and then I had to work at Target for a little bit between jobs, and then I got a job in biotech, and I've been there for nearly 20 years, and I really liked it. So like in biotech in the company I was at, it was like they're kind of doing like the research side almost of genetics, and so I was kind of like, oh well, I was going to do genetics anyways 30 years ago, so it's kind of come full circle, and now I'm back again, not really like in an exact research lab, but that was kind of what they're helping researchers do is work in synthetic biology and biotechnology. And now I'm going toward podcasting, and the topic that I'm talking about here is a lot of like life coaching, mindset change coaching, very different from anything that I would have ever expected. So none of the plans I've had have ever really worked out. Um, and is it disappointing? I mean, at the time it feels like it, but now I look back on it and I'm like, no, I mean, it's there's a lot of things that happened because of the path I took. If I hadn't gone into astronomy, I wouldn't have met my best friend, and she and I have been friends for 26 years. Because of the way I failed out of grad school, I actually met my husband because I was failing grad school. So I was up late at night a lot because I didn't really have anything else to do. I was kind of worried about what I was going to do with my life because clearly this path wasn't working. And then I had taken the summer after my first year of grad school, I took it completely off. I didn't teach, I didn't work, I'd had enough money saved up for a couple months, and I just had to figure out what am I going to do. So while I was up late at night, my husband and I met online. And I wouldn't have met him if I had been doing well in school, if everything had just gone according to my plan. I probably wouldn't even be in that major. I'd have been doing well. I would have been working and teaching and never had time to sit around pondering what I was going to do with my life. And then the other people I met in grad school have become my best friends too. And it's because I picked that major, I went to that particular school, I met those particular people. And of course, I wouldn't change that for anything. And then not even going into astronomy for a job, but having chosen this other company to work at in a different field, I've met tons of people at work that are my very good friends and that have taught me a lot. And again, it's those experiences, the hardships, all these different things that really change who we are and that's what's really most valuable, I believe. It's the people, it's the experience, it's the things you learn along the way. So who cares really what path you take to learn these things? And some of the kind of like the weird I guess, coincidences or synchronicities. So when I worked at Target, my team lead there actually is related to some of the people at the company that I work at. So when I was telling him about how I wanted to apply at this company, because it was one of like the only kind of scientific-y, is that a good word? Scientific-y uh, jobs in the area. And so I told him I was going to apply to this place, and he's like, "Oh, I know some people that work there." So that was pretty cool. Never expected that. So when I went to my interview at the job, the manager who was interviewing me actually already knew of me because she had been talking to um, the relative of my team lead from Target. So that was pretty interesting that um, it's kind of just the weird connections that happened. And I would never have met these people if I had never gone this route of, again, going to this particular grad school and then failing out of it, changing my mind, doing this, working here, meeting that person who knows this person who, kind of helped me get a job where I've been for, like I said, almost 20 years now. So that's pretty cool. And I would never have met these people, maybe not even met my husband, if I had stuck to my high school plan of marine biology. And then another very in your face example is when I got pregnant. And I don't know if any of you have ever tried to plan a pregnancy. Maybe it worked for you. It did not for me. I had everything laid out. As soon as I found out I was pregnant, I'm reading like all the things of what to expect, and I have the birth plan and all the different options, all the different interventions, and I wanted none of it. I wanted to do no interventions. I wanted my natural birth. Ideally, I wanted a midwife and do a home birth, but I was too old. That was my kind of like the overriding medical condition. I also had hypertension, but between age and hypertension, they're like, there's no way anyone in today's world would let you do a home birth. So, but I actually did end up with a midwife, so that was pretty cool. But so I had all these plans. I had everything all written out. Like I had a birth plan. I had all the different things I wanted to happen every single step of the way. And can you guess how much of that pregnancy went according to my plan? Zero. Nothing went according to my plan. Because of my high blood pressure, I had so many extra tests. Things that were supposed to happen once a week or every 2 weeks were happening. Like if it was every 2 weeks, it was happening once a week. If it was a once a week test, it was happening a couple times a week. So I think I was going to the doctor 3 times a week for tests. And this was like a little bit in the later stages. In the early stages, it wasn't too bad. So I have all these extra tests. During one of the routine tests, they said my high blood pressure was not coming down. They were giving me a little bit extra meds, trying to bring it down. It just wasn't happening. So the nurse comes in. She said that she just talked to my OB/GYN. And she's like, okay, so we're just going to get you admitted this afternoon and we'll induce labor tonight. And I'm just laying in bed like, what? My husband and I were just planning on where we're going to go for lunch because I'm starving. And now I'm told that I'm being admitted right now and we're going to induce labor later in the evening. And I'm just like, I don't, what's happening here? What's happening? So, yeah, we went through it and I ended up, for wanting no interventions, I think I had all the interventions. I had ended up with 3 IVs and inducing labor, and that didn't work. So we had to do a C-section. It wasn't necessarily an emergency C-section, but my blood pressure was super high, and I was trying to fight it the whole way, of course, saying that I wanted to do the natural birth. And they're like, you can't. I mean, your blood pressure is sky high. It isn't going to work. It's a very real possibility of, stroke or heart attack. So nothing had gone according to my plan. And I was so disappointed. And when I finally surrendered to the idea that you're gonna have to do a C-section, that's just it. I'm not going to be allowed to give birth. So when I finally surrendered, I basically just passed out as if I'd been drugged, on anesthesia. I was out. I barely remember what the doctors were saying. I wasn't given any sedatives or any anesthesia, but it felt like it. I could barely stay awake, and I was just kind of, like I said, vaguely aware of what the doctors were saying or doing. It felt like when they give you anesthesia and you're just kind of on that cusp of passing out completely. because I had just like finally let go of everything and just let everything happen, just gave up the control. And it was just like my body was like in total like collapse and like relax mode. Like finally, I just let it go and just kind of gave up and surrendered. So that was, and again, okay, so here's the thing. So we go through all these things, and yeah, it didn't go as planned, and now it was disappointing. Because again, I'm only going to have the one child. So this was kind of my one chance to do pregnancy and birth and all the kind of normal things. And I didn't get to do it my way, and I didn't get to do the natural birth. And so that was very disappointing to me. Um, I think kind of mentally, emotionally, it made me feel like I never really gave birth to my child. Because I didn't get to do it the natural way. I had it like cut out of me. So that was difficult to get over. But the end result was that me and the baby were both healthy. And that was really, isn't that really the goal? That's always what anyone really wants. Yeah, you want all the different things, and maybe you have, again, these birth plans and everything. But ultimately, what you truly want is that you have a healthy baby at the end of it. And we did. So what does it matter how it happened? So even though things don't go to plan, oftentimes the end result is exactly what you need. Maybe not even what you want, but it's what you need. I needed to have the healthy baby. So I had things didn't go according to my plan. Because if they'd gone according to my plan, serious bad things could have happened because I was just not able physically, with the high blood pressure especially, to go and actually go through labor. So this idea of surrender, I think, is something that we all kind of need to do spiritually. Kind of let go of what we want for our plans and let God take care of the plans for us. Let Him take care of us. Let Him decide the path. He already knows the path. So why not just let Him guide us and follow what His path is? And one of the things that I always like to remember, one of the best examples of surrender that I always try to remember, is when Jesus is praying in Gethsemane before his crucifixion. In Matthew 26:39, it says, "He went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed, saying, 'O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will.'" And this is always very encouraging to me because even Jesus had this moment of weakness where he asked God to let him not go through with the plan. When he says, "Let this cup pass from me," like, if it's possible, don't let me go through this. But in the end, he says, "Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done." So that's always something that I try to keep in mind because even Jesus kind of has this moment of weakness where he doesn't want to do God's plan. But he also says and surrenders and says, "God, ultimately, it's not what I want, it's what you want. Let your will be done." So that's something that I always try to remember if I'm very struggling with something, is to just kind of take a break and pray and say, "God, it's your will be done." And Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope." So when we let God take over for us, it's not like he's going to lead us down the wrong path. He already knows well, he knows the thoughts that we have. He knows our heart. He knows what's going on with our lives. And the thoughts that he has toward us are thoughts of peace, to give us a future and a hope. So you can trust in God that he's going to give you a good plan. He's not going to lead you astray. He's not going to lead you to ruin. And then Jeremiah 29:12 goes on to say, "Then you will call upon me and go and pray to me, and I will listen to you." 13, "And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart." So if you're really searching for God and you're praying, he will hear you. And he wants to give you a future and a hope. And of course, I got to list this scripture because this one you'll find on my website and kind of throughout the podcast. It's one of my favorite ones, and this is one I try to just keep in mind all the time. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Pretty much every day when I wake up, that is my prayer for the morning, is that God would direct my paths, that he would guide me, tell me which way to go, tell me what to do. I'm really trying to get into the practice of surrendering because my plans don't usually work out. And that's not always the bad thing. Again, usually when my plans don't work out, the plan that does unfold is usually actually better than what I had in mind. Because if it's God, it's going to be better than what I had in mind. So the lesson here is that no matter how much you plan for your life to go a certain way, they might not. Okay, the plans might fall through. And that's not a bad thing. You meet people that you wouldn't have otherwise met. You have these experiences that change you. You learn different things. You learn to surrender to God, which can bring more blessings and lead to fulfillment that you can't find on your own. And I think that one of those blessings, probably the most important one, is peace of mind. Because I think a lot of times we talk about blessings and success as prosperity and financial and having money and things and the house and the car. But remember that God didn't send your soul here to acquire stuff. He doesn't need your stuff. You don't, as a soul, you don't need money. You're not taking it with you, as everyone says. But you're here as a soul to grow and to learn. So surrendering your plans to God is the best way to gain those experiences, the knowledge, the wisdom that your soul really is craving. Because God knows what you need and he's got the plan for you. So if you're here as a soul to gain wisdom and understanding and experiences and to meet people, God has that already planned out for you. You just have to follow that path. Not your will, but his will be done. Okay, point 1. Most people create a life plan they assume will unfold in a straight line because we want the certainty, we want predictability. I know people say that, change is good, and I don't know. There's some saying, I can't think of what it is, because I always felt it was the opposite. I was like, humans don't like change. We like predictability. We like to know what's coming. We like to have a set schedule, a set structure, because then we can plan for it. It feels safe. So you're going to have to kind of retrain yourself to recognize and understand that detours on life's road are normal. It's not evidence of failure. You didn't fail at anything just because your path changed or because there was a bit of a roadblock and you had to go around it. It's not a failure. It's just a different path. Point 2, unexpected paths often teach us things that the original plan couldn't. And your growth, especially like your spiritual growth, comes from experience, challenges, adaptation. If you just get to coast through life without ever really being challenged or having to change or adapt or learn anything, you just don't grow very much, and it's kind of a one-dimensional existence. So if you've ever planted seeds inside, before you plant them in the ground outside, you start them inside to get little saplings. But once they start growing and they're these little saplings, typically you need to harden them off. So you put them outside for a few hours every day so that they get exposed to the elements, like the sun, the wind, kind of natural elements, just for a few hours a day. And you bring them in overnight because if you're in the northern climates, it's still freezing overnight or cold enough. You don't want to leave saplings out. But by bringing them outside for a few hours every day, you are making them stronger. And especially if you live in a windy climate here, like in Iowa, that wind actually makes them stronger. And I've seen this with some of the little seedlings that I'll start inside. When I put them out and it's a super windy day, I just leave them out there to kind of grow into that wind. And the stalks grow a lot thicker and stronger than when I just leave them inside. So they need that challenge. They need the elements to help them grow stronger. So just to kind of remind yourself, reflect on something that has been difficult in your life that ultimately led to a positive change. Because if you really take some time to think about it, I think you'll find that what you might initially see as a disappointment, like, oh, I didn't get to go to law school or grad school, I didn't get to be a doctor, I didn't get to live in this place or do this thing. If you just stop there, yeah, it sounds like a disappointment. But really think about all of the things that have happened because you did or did not do something and the path that you took around that thing instead, and what have you done that is successful or a positive change because of it. Because I'm sure there's something, but you do need to take a little bit of time to kind of think about things. Don't just stop at the didn't do it, I'm a failure, done. Because no, you're not a failure. Yeah, you didn't do it, but I bet there's something else that you learned along the way that when you really think about it, you'd be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't give that up for anything. I'm glad that thing didn't happen and I went on this other path. Point 3, you are allowed to create new dreams. You don't have to be stuck as your 10-year-old self that's going to be a marine biologist and talk to the whales and dolphins. You're allowed to change and then become a geneticist or an astronomer or a biotechnologist or a life coach. You can change your dreams throughout your life. There's never a time really when you have to stop dreaming. Now, if you're in a position where you can't just quit your job, again, this is what this podcast is about, is you don't have to quit your job. I'm saying you can do small things now. If you have a new dream or something else you want to be doing, you can do small things now to bring that sort of joy that you feel. If only I could do this. Well, you can. And you do small things to bring a little bit of that joy into your life now and to start making small steps toward the change. So you can have these new dreams. It's never too late. And many people spend years mourning the life that they expected. I've actually, I've struggled with having a child and the way it went with the pregnancy, and that was actually hard. Even afterwards, even after it's a done deal, it was still difficult for me to kind of accept the fact that I didn't get to do things the way I wanted. I was still like, months and months and months later, I was still like, well, it just didn't go the way I wanted. And then, just if you have a child, raising the child, nothing goes as expected. Nothing about the infancy went the way I read it was supposed to. So, everything, every step of the way has been different than what I expected or what I planned. And I've spent a lot of time just like essentially mourning that and thinking, well, if only it had done this way, if only it had gone this way. And it's just a waste of time. And it brings you down. It makes you feel like you're stuck and heavy and the world is just a terrible place when it really isn't. So you will just have to, again, kind of train yourself to think a little bit differently. And that if you are experiencing this idea of like, well, I want to do something else. I want to learn how to paint. I want to learn how to sing. I want to learn how to play an instrument. You can still do that. And you don't need to waste time thinking about, well, I should have learned this years ago. Like I'm learning Russian. I've been learning Russian for many years because I just do little bits at a time. I'll probably never be fluent in it. But rather than think about how, well, I should have started when I was, 10 years old. Well, okay, that doesn't do me any good to sit here thinking about how, well, if I had started earlier, then I'd be fluent now. And it's harder to become fluent in a language as an adult. Yeah, that's true. I may never actually be fluent in speaking it, but I'm still learning. Every day I do the little Duolingo lessons. So I'm still doing a little bit of it. And I'm getting a little bit better at least reading Russian. I will probably never be able to speak it. But, it's something. I still get to work on that part of that hobby that I wanted to do. So ask yourself, what excites me now? Rather than, what was I supposed to want? Or what did I used to want? What excites you now? And work with that. Who cares about what the past was, what the past path was, what the past dream was, if you should have started, if you could have started, whatever. What is it that you want to do now? You don't have to stay stuck in one identity. You're not just a biologist or an astronomer or an accountant or a stay-at-home mom. Whatever your identity is, you can change it or you can add to it. Sure, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I'm also an artist. I'm also a writer. I'm an astronomer, but I'm also a painter. You can add other things to your identity. You're not just this one-dimensional picture. You've got many facets to your life, and you can always add to it, and you can polish and change and create. But always keep in mind, your true, unchanging identity is that you are a child of the Most High God. Let Him guide you because He won't lead you astray. Okay, for this week's homework, what I want you to do is get a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write down what I thought my life would look like. On the right, write down unexpected gifts or opportunities that came from the path I actually took. So spend a few minutes filling out both sides of your paper, and then ask yourself, do these gifts or opportunities outweigh what you feel you lost by things not going exactly according to your plan? Would you give up the things in the right-hand column so you could have the things in the left-hand column? And I'm betting that for the most part, you're going to say no. The things in the right-hand column actually do outweigh what I would have gotten if I'd done things my way. So just give that a try. If you feel like sharing in the Facebook group, you can join up, share what you're doing in there. I would love to hear your guys' opinions, see if these homework assignments are helping you. I actually kind of like this one. I often do. It's basically like a pro-con, analysis. So also think about, what possibility might I be missing because I'm focused on what didn't happen? So if you're spending all your time thinking about this life that could have happened, that should have happened, you're probably missing out on some stuff that's going on right now. So try to get yourself out of that, rear view mirror, looking back at what could have, should have happened, and really focus on what's ahead of you and what's going on around you. All right, to recap. 1, few lives unfold exactly as planned. 2, unexpected paths often create unexpected opportunities. 3, you are allowed to dream new dreams in every season of life. So also remember that it's not a failure because your path did not go according to your plan. Pretty much if you do everything according to your plan, you're almost guaranteed to fail. I think you need to do things according to God's plan. He will never let you fail. He'll never let you down. But you do have to ask Him and talk to Him and listen. I still struggle with listening. I think I do a lot of talking, but I don't do enough listening. So different path does not mean a wrong path. All right, that's all I got for you guys. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. If you like the podcast, please like it, subscribe to it, share it with your friends. Leave comments if you can. I would love to hear if these episodes are actually helping you guys. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm trying to. I really want to help people, and I'm hoping that this is actually useful to you. And I would love to hear comments if it is or is not. If you'd like to hear something else, let me know about that too. Again, you can sign up for a Facebook group, sign up for the newsletter, share the podcast, all the things that we all do every day. All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate you listening, and I will talk to you next week. Bye. Hi, friend. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who may want to get inspired to start living their dream? Also, please leave a review wherever you're listening. It lights me up to know that this podcast is helping you. Take a step forward today. It doesn't have to be big, but it does have to be done. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Bye.